So I got to be honest with you, tell you a little about my backstory. So my wife's from Phoenix, and she grew up in Mesa and Tempe, and my two brothers are doctors in Gilbert.
Yeah.
And my parents live in East Mesa. It's Los Andes.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're connected.
Yeah.
I feel like we're,
Arizona.
I know Queen Creek. I know
yeah.
I watched a lot of football back then, when I was dating my wife. And then since the year I go to my nephew's games, Mountain View, that was their high school.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Mountain View Mesa. Yeah, we played them a couple times, but yeah, Arizona.
So I want to make sure that that we were connected. And then I saw your folks at the game in Phoenix, the kind of the homecoming, and I thought to myself, my parents, when I was first started to play, just how fast it rolled in, like the fame and the fortune and the notoriety. And I was just thinking about your folks and how they're handling it and what they're, how are they doing? My mom, she used to get so nervous for the game, she would walk the neighborhood. She couldn't watch.
Yeah.
And then my dad would have to call her and tell her the score.
Yeah.
How do your parents handle all this new stuff?
Yeah. I mean, my mom definitely feels the emotion and stuff. My dad is more of the calm, cool, collected guy. He doesn't talk to many people. He likes to sort of just take it all in. But if there's people over at the house, my dad, everyone knows if you're around Sean Purdy, be quiet. He needs to sort of focus and take it all in. My mom's all excited, but I mean, man, the night before games, we always call. We pray together, and we sort of just keep it simple. They don't, do anything more than what they do. They just enjoy the games and stuff. But I know my dad does, internally takes it he's nervous. He's always praying. He says the whole game he's just praying the whole time. So, but other than that, they've enjoyed it.
How about a post-mortem from Dad? Do you get the feedback afterwards? Does he give you criticism or praise, or how does it work?
No, I feel like in high school and college, you definitely told me, all right, yeah, there was this player, that situation you could have done. I'm like, Dad, I know. My coaches are telling me, and more than anything, I know. After a bad play or something happens as a quarterback, you already know. And but since I've gotten to the NFL, he's done a good job with just calling me and telling me that he's proud of me and that he loves me, and sort of just leaves it at that, and just lets me know that he's got my back and that he has, or he's supporting me through it all. And so that's more than anything what he tells me now. So
most human beings, Brock, when things get more tense, adrenaline runs, things speed up, your mind shallows,
Yeah.
And it kind of gets overwhelming. And from an outsider's perspective, it feels like your DNA, it doesn't work that way. It's from outsider now. It feels like bigger the moment, the more calm you get in a weird way. Yeah. Is that what? Explain that, because other humans are like, well, how does that happen?
Yeah. I mean, there's been situations in my life playing the game where, just growing up, high school, college, where the moment has been pretty big for me. And then I had watched the film after, and I'm like, man, if I'm just watching this film and I take away all the emotion of how I was feeling right then and there in that moment, I just got to do this, or I have to do that, and I have to go through this read. And so I feel like sort of going back to those experiences, I'm reminded of that in the moment. And it's I'm in a big environment right now. There's a lot of people going crazy and stuff. We feel a certain way because of the score, the situation, but I know that after this game, when I turn on the film and it's just me in a quiet room, all I have to do is drop back, look off this defender, and hit my guy right over the middle, or whatever the play is. And so I sort of remind myself of that. I'm playing 11-on-11 football. If I do fail here, I'm going to learn from it. And so it sort of takes out that factor of fearing to fail, So I don't know.
Feels like you simplify it. It's like you make it simple. I got to play.
Yep.
I'm going to run it. And then I'm just thinking about me now watching the film of it. And did I just do what I was supposed to do?
Yeah.
And that's hard for people to kind of be able to isolate that. Is that just something that just happens to you? You experience enough to say, because I got to be honest with you, most people can't, you can say, hey, just keep it simple. Mm-hmm. They can't do that, but you can. And it feels like there's something about your makeup that allows that. And have you thought much about that? Because it seems odd.
Yeah. Man, I always feel like there's so more, that I could be better at and stuff. So, for me to sit back and think, oh man, I'm doing this right or this right, like I always feel like there's more. And so I don't know if I necessarily have taken a step back and thought about it, but that's what comes to mind when you ask me, just in terms of keeping things simple. I just go back to the film and I'm like, man, when I watch this film and everything's quiet, it's not as bad as I thought it was in the moment, in terms of going through my reads and hitting a check down rather than forcing something or letting the moment be too big for me. So, and then obviously, like, if we're being honest, my faith, tying into my faith, that allows me to just, play and not be afraid to fail. Like, I know that, God's going to, take care of wherever I'm at in my life, whether it's football or not. And so I'm actually able to use that when I'm making decisions and playing football. So
the undergirding of faith is it's a power. It was one of my superpowers. I felt the same way. And so I think that's it. It's a grounding, right?
Yep.
It sends a kind of constant message to your brain that you're grounded and nothing's going to stop that. And that nothing's going to, how about as things get heavier, more, as I'm sure it's hard to go to the grocery store today. It's hard to, go, anywhere. How about that kind of part of your life as it gets more complex? Because you're more famous. There's a lot more attention. Does that change that at all? The more comes, the more you can just let it go off your back.
Yeah. Man, I feel like lately what I've sort of learned is just perspective, trying to have a good perspective, a clean perspective on where I'm at in my life. I may go to a grocery store now and people see me and want a picture or sort of, get excited, which is great. And then for me to, be afraid of that, like, man, this is only in this bubble of, here, just in California, or maybe in this country, yes, but I try to have the perspective that there's things going on around the world. There's people that are, trying to survive with food and life and shelter and stuff. So, people may think and think we're on another level or these, gods, but man, I'm human. I have flaws. There's things I need to work on in my life. I'm playing football for the 49ers. I'm very thankful for that opportunity, but I also try to have this perspective of like, man, I'm human and I try to live just the simple, I'm a brother, I'm a fiance, I'm a son, I'm a teammate, and I don't make it more than that. And so that's where I'm at. And honestly, I think it does help me play, with football and all the pressures and stuff that this position can have. It allows me to sort of just keep things simple and understand who I am. Then I'm not going to be perfect, but I can go out and just play and be myself.
So the lesson, it feels like, is the moment's not too big because it's not that big.
Yeah.
That's interesting, and that's a powerful perspective and something super useful. What's the biggest difference about you to September? Like, what's the biggest thing you've learned? It seems like this year has been a revelation for America to watch Brock Purdy play. Nothing new for you, right? Because you've lived it out. But for a lot of people, this fall has been monumental in what, getting to know you. Have you learned things about yourself over this last 4 months in the season?
Yeah. Obviously there's football stuff that,
like that. Yeah. Tell us about the football stuff.
Yeah. Like just the system playing within Kyle's, offense and my guys and sort of, understanding that for me, growing up, I always felt like I had to be the athletic Superman on my team and win games. I feel like now it's like, man, yes, win games, but not with your body so much, but with your mind, win games by making consistent, the right decision consistently. Obviously going through reads, if I have an opportunity with the D-ball or something, great. If not, check it down. Like, that's winning the game, not turning the ball over. Obviously I've had to learn the hard way multiple times this year with those kinds of games and performances, but the games that we're winning, it's because I'm being smart with the ball and I'm willing to check it down. I'm willing to punt, and those kinds of things. So that's something that I feel like I've learned. And then just the other thing, just with life and stuff, as a quarterback in the NFL, like, it's a long season. You play 17 games, 18 weeks. And there's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad. And people, obviously will talk you up when things are all great and stuff. And then the minute you fail and slip up, they're quick to say, all right, see, this is who he really is. So as a human and as a football player, man, that's what I've sort of just had to learn this year, is understanding who I am, and whether I do good or not, like I'm rooted in that and who I am, and for me, it's my faith in God, and that's it. I am who he calls me to be. I love all my teammates and my family well, whatever the circumstance is, so that's something that I've learned this year, and hopefully I can continue to build off that.
A lot of people, I talk about other humans, we all struggle with perception.
Yeah.
It's like, and I always say perception is, there's an old saying that possession is 9/10 of the law. It's a law school thing I learned, but I always change it to perception is 9/10 of the law, because if you're perceived to be something, you got this weight on you. And that weight feels very light for whatever reason, whether it's Mr. Irrelevant or whether it's perception that you aren't Lamar Jackson and got the speed, or you're not Josh Allen, you're not 6'6", like all these perceptions. And it feels like we all lay those on you, and you're like, it doesn't say, you don't carry them around. There's no weight to it. Is that true? That you don't feel a weight to the perceptions that people have, or the misperceptions that people have? It feels like you're free. And like, I speak about Mr. Irrelevant, you probably hate hearing that word, but it's like this thing that everyone wants to talk about, and it feels like you left it behind. And I just wondered how do you do that? Because that seems very hard.
Yeah, I mean, that is a perception that you can have, even for myself, like thinking like those kinds of people who say he's not this, he's not that. But again, like I said, my identity isn't in football.
So you just refuse. It's like anything that comes from outside, it just doesn't get through the filter.
100%, yeah. And it's easy said
and
than done. Like,
of course you hear it. Of course you know it. It's got to weigh you down. And it feels like you're saying, no, it actually doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Just my identity, not being in this football, this life, the things that can come with it. And it's all, such a blessing. I'm very thankful for it, and I'm not taking it for granted. But honestly, my mindset is I try to hold this all loosely, not try to hold on to, I need to be the guy, the starter in the NFL, this and that. And I think the more you think like that, the more you start comparing yourself to guys like that, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen or whatever, and those guys are great, but I'm not them and they're not me. Like, I know who I am, and God, if you want me to do great with this, great. If not, all right, let's go do something else wherever you need me. And that's allowed me to not put all this pressure on myself. It's allowed me to play free. It's allowed me to live my life and keep things simple. And yeah.
And it seems like there's a piece to the fact that if it went away, it's like, okay, what's next?
Exactly, 100%. So
I needed that. I needed to, because I watch you closely. I've been through a lot of the things that you're going through, and I know how I thought about them. I was just super fascinated about how you've dealt with them. You mentioned Kyle and his system. I played with his dad. He was my favorite coach, Mike Shanahan, and Kyle is you and I are very similar situated, because Kyle and you and me and Mike we made great music together, his dad and I. Mm-hmm. And what is it? How would you describe that relationship with Kyle and his expectations, and how you fit into how he looks at the world?
Yeah. He's a competitor, which I love, and he's a loyal human. And so ever since, I've gotten in and learned, his system and stuff, he understands who I am as a quarterback. Sometimes I'm trying to articulate things and it doesn't really, I don't know how to say it. And he's like, are you thinking it like this? And I'm like, yes, exactly. So he does a really good job of.
He takes the feedback.
Yes, 100%. He takes the feedback. He understands where I'm coming from. And then obviously his system is so good. I have to go in, just do what he's asking. But at the same time, when I have to get creative and do things, he's for it. He allowed, and he tells me, he's like, dude, that's part of you. That's in you. And it's okay to, if something's not there, make something happen. And, as a player, hearing that from a coach, knowing that he believes in me, man, that's huge. And so we're continuing to build our relationship and obviously grow in his system. So it's been really special this year, and hopefully we can continue to.
Feels
keep
like
it up.
his dad was similarly said the same kind of thing. It's like, look, I have a great play.
Yeah.
Don't screw it up.
Yeah.
Right. And at one point, Mike said to me, look, I trust you. I'm going to be aggressive. You protect me.
Yep.
Is that how does you and Kyle's relationship? It feels like he calls plays very freely because he knows you'll protect him. Is that the dynamic that you guys have worked at?
Yeah.
Seems to come very naturally to both of you.
Yeah, no, it's been good. There's been times where I've had to learn, early on and stuff, just with why he's calling something and setting things up, and I didn't really understand that when I first got here, but over time I have, and I'm like, okay, if I just play within this system and make decisions consistent, making the right decisions consistently, man, like he's gonna trust in me, and I've shown that over time. And I feel like he always has an answer within his plays. And so, he's able to call things, sort of freely, knowing that Brock's going to be prepared and well-equipped for whatever's going to come. And there's that trust component.
I love what you said where it's like there's an answer.
Yeah.
I always appreciate that about Mike, and I appreciate that about Kyle. There's an answer in there. Find it.
Yes.
And in that, you can rest assured that he's not going to put you in a bad spot.
Exactly.
It's rare, by the way. Do you know that? You know
Really?
how rare the situation you're in, how good you have it?
Yeah. I've heard that from other guys. They come from other places, quarterbacks, and they're like, dude, this system, the staff, it's different, So I try to understand that and have that, just in the back of my mind. But I haven't been anywhere else. So I
said,
know.
oh, no.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, from a guy that's alone, if I could go back and they could say, just pick a place. You get to go play anywhere. I would sprint right here, number one, because of all the things that are. Well, that goes to all the talent around you and the big personalities like Debo and Trent and George. These are like huge personalities that have been drawn to you, and they defend you. They watch for you. They do things that veterans usually are not, like, doesn't necessarily happen as fast and as strong. And how does that happen? How have you created that environment so there's this relationship that you've built so quickly?
Yeah. Man, from day one, I've come in and obviously I've tried to just prove to myself that, I'm worthy of being here and all that kind of stuff, but also like show my teammates more than anything that, I can play at this level and I can play with you guys. And so, and I haven't changed and acted like somebody when I first got here. Like I've always been myself, and I think they respect that. And right when I got in against Miami and stuff, it was like, okay, like Jimmy was balling, last year. He was doing a great job, and he goes down, and for me, it's like, all right, let's not skip a beat. Let's keep it going. And when I got in, it's just, be myself, have confidence, and let it rip. And once I showed them that, I don't have that fear factor in myself of, the fear of failure, I think they were like, okay, let's ride with this kid. And over time, we've all been able to be ourselves and flourish as football players. So I don't know, just be myself and continue to work. I feel like over time they respected that, and I earned
Was there
respect.
a moment that you could tell that they were like, they're all in with you? Was it immediate? Was there a time when you like, because as a young player, those veterans, you like, they're big personalities and they're big in the locker room, and you need them. And so you're really aware of the relationship that you have. Is there a game? Is there a moment that you felt that kind of coalescing to like the support that you needed?
Man, there's a lot of little moments. The first couple touchdowns that we scored in Miami, Trent's the first one there, celebrating with me. Like, not even just like celebrating, but like, he was doing all the celebrations, but he was also telling me like, all right, like, let's go back to the bench, let's stay humble, and we got to keep it going kind of thing. And so I was like, okay, like, he's got my back. That was Trent. And then over time, there was plays and stuff made with Debo and Brandon and George. So there was all these little moments specifically with each of them. But, over time, man, to be able to, just play ball with them and do it consistently, like there's nothing better. And obviously this year I think all been able to take it to another level. And there's still more room for us to grow. So that's what I'm excited about.
All right, last couple. There's so much talent that you play with. There's only one ball. I had a similar situation. Joe had a similar situation. A lot of guys who needed the ball, and it was always hard to get it out as often as you needed to. There's certain people that wanted more. How do you manage that relationship with your guys so that, everyone's satisfied? Because that's not easy.
Yeah. Man, yeah, we got some playmakers. I was sort of wondering that, going into this year, it's like, man, we got a lot of playmakers, and I want to make sure everyone's obviously happy, and more than anything, I want to win. And, if we're going to win, it's going to take, getting the ball in these guys' hands. But and that's something that I also learned this year is everybody has their game and their moment. I don't have to give everybody the ball. Everyone has to have 150 yards to win this game. Like, Ayuk will have his game this game, Debo, and I don't go into the game knowing that. It just sort of comes about, and it happens. Every defense has their strategy on how they're going to stop us, and sometimes they double George, sometimes they double Debo. Like, that's just sort of how it goes. But over time, everybody gets their games and their yards and stuff. And the cool thing is these guys are old enough to understand that they want to win. They want a Super Bowl more than anything. And the ego and stuff is out the door. Like, everyone is willing to put the team first. I mean, you watch Brandon Ayuk block, watch Debo block, George. Those are selfless.
Try to one up each other.
Exactly. So that's the cool thing about this locker room. And as a quarterback, it's awesome. How to see how selfless they are, and they want to win more than anything. So that helps me out.
Is there broke passing record for the team? That took some names that I never threw as many yards as you have. Joe's never thrown as many yards as you have. Jeff Garcia never threw as many yards as he has. When that happened, and that someone told you that, what did that feel like? Is it something that, again, it sounds like to me you just great. Is there? Do you have a sense of history? Do you have a sense of? Is there pressure from the history at all? I can't tell if it doesn't seem like there's much weight on your back at all.
I mean, man, it's an honor, for me growing up, and anytime I saw a 49er logo, I always thought of, you and Joe and what you guys did in the Super Bowls more than anything. And so then obviously I get here and I'm just trying to make the team. And then last week happens and they tell me after the game, oh, by the way, you broke the record. I'm like, what? So
literally you did.
I had an idea going in towards the end of the season that it could come about, but I didn't know that I did it right then and there. And so they told me after, and I was like, wow. Just inside. And so, but man, what an honor. And more than anything, man, you guys got the championship, so we just gotta keep it rolling and match that standard.
Well, you were the number one vote getter in the Pro Bowl. If I would have told you that a year or even more ago, that Brock Purdy would be the number one Pro Bowl vote getter in the 2023 season, would that shock you? Would it be like, oh yeah, like how, like that has to be something that you didn't expect?
Man, I would probably just think like, man, like, that's all God. He's got a plan, more bigger and more beautiful that I could ever imagine, honestly. And yeah, I'm just gonna show up every day, work hard, and see where he takes me. And so, I'm very thankful for him, man. But did I ever expect all this kind of stuff? I didn't. I have no idea. So just try to show up, do my job every day, and it falls into place how it needs to.
Well, it's a beautiful way to live, and you can tell that there's a grounding in it that just seems like it every day, no matter what happens. There's nothing's a shock either way.
Yeah,
and it feels like there's, I don't know. Brock, I've wanted to not do it publicly, but I wanted to sit down and hopefully do it more often and stay connected. I've loved the conversation.
Yes, sir. No, I appreciate it.
Anything I can, any insights I can give you that would be useful? I don't know if there's probably not.
Oh, there will
left
be.
there.
Yeah, maybe off camera about
how
to win a Super Bowl.
We'll get a text string going to see if I can be helpful.
Yeah,
because there's some big moments coming, I'm sure.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate
Great
that.
to say hello to you.
Yes, sir. It's an honor.
No, sir, bro. No, sir. No, sirs.
Yeah.
I refuse.
Habit. Growing up, my dad. That's how he taught me.
If you don't call me Steve, then we're not going to be friends.